is Dr. Upendra Bhojani. He serves as director at the Institute of Public Health, Bangalore, where he leads a cluster on chronic health conditions and public policy. He has been working for tobacco control for over 15 years now, and he is a DBT Wellcome Trust India Fellow studying political economy of tobacco in post-1990 India. So welcome Upendra, and we would particularly request if you could highlight for us the historical developments on tobacco industry interference in India and what have been some of the earlier initiatives. So if you can just trace the history for us and where we are today, that would be really helpful. Over to you, Upendra.
Thank you, Monica. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for this great opportunity to speak on something which is so close to my heart. Well, talking about historical development in countering tobacco industry interference in a vast country like India, in few minutes, 7 to 8 minutes itself is a great challenge. But let me take a chance. And I think most of the time when we talk about tobacco industry, we talk about it as such a mighty power, such a powerful force. And I think we have heard it enough from our earlier speakers, and it's true. But let me do it a bit differently this time. So recently, one of my colleagues reviewed a book by Sarah Milo on the cigarette political history, which is a kind of a historical treaty on US tobacco industry. And one of the key feature of this book is that she looks at narrative of tobacco industry rather from farmers, from social movements, from health activists. And it gives a bit different account. It shows that the tobacco industry is vulnerable and is open to challenges. And taking that line of inquiry, what I'll try to do is rather to talk about 4 or 5 stories really briefly. And I guess telling those stories, I should be able to also sort of portray a bit of a historical development in this area. So while India ratified the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control in 2004, and the Article 5.3, which Monica just mentioned, requires party to protect public health policies from tobacco industry interference, we are really yet to have a nationwide policy in line with Article 5.3. So in that context, let me start from year 2010. So in that year, many of the international tobacco companies and a tobacco reporter, which is a tobacco industry magazine, they were organizing a huge international event in Bangalore city called Global Tobacco Networking Forum, or GTNF. It was an exclusive industry event where they were talking how to expand tobacco industry, how to showcase India to the world in terms of its offering in tobacco industry. And the irony was that this event was being supported, in fact funded partly by Tobacco Board of India, which is an entity under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. So we found this quite outrageous. And at that time, the Institute of Public Health, a place that I currently work with, and I was representing it as a petitioner, went with a public interest litigation in Karnataka High Court. And in its interim order, fortunately, the High Court asked Tobacco Board to withdraw its sponsorship, take back money, and not participate in this event. And while giving the order, I'll just read out some of the key paragraphs that the two judge bench sort of mentioned. It says that the fourth respondent, which is Tobacco Board, keeping company with them, and them means tobacco companies because there were logos and things everywhere, itself amount to conveying a message that the Tobacco Board is in league with such companies in promoting their products, which is most undesirable if one is to go by provisions of the Section 5 of COTPA, as well as the Article 13 of the FCTC, which are all about prohibiting tips. However, an important observation, which was also recorded in the judgment, they go on to say that apart, while the Tobacco Board can continue to promote the tobacco industry, and that's because that's the statute of the board through a parliamentary act, in other areas, but not related to human consumption, as far as it is leading to affection of the health of general public. And I think this is a very profound sort of observation made by judges in that particular judgment. And so what happened? This was an interim order. GTNF continues, yes. It is now called Global Tobacco Nicotine Forum rather than Networking Forum, with whole ends industry coming in. And does Tobacco Board of India participate in GTNF? It does. In 2014, it received a Golden Leaf Award. In 2019, it again received a Golden Leaf Award. But maybe in 2019, I think with some interventions, the Tobacco Board chief really withdrew her participation and presentation at the fora. So I think there may be some sort of changes that has come as a result. Now, in the final order of the same case that I'm talking about, we as petitioner had asked for a code of conduct in line with Article 5.3 for public officials. We thought that kind of a policy will prevent further such events and conflict of interest for public officials. And while as petitioner we were able to submit a draft code of conduct, I think at that time the Union of India Council humbly submitted that they would consider such a code while drafting such a code, which they are anyway obligated under the FCTC. And so sort of that case came to an end. But for a long time, we didn't get such code of conduct in place. But more recently, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare this year, in fact, in July, I guess, has put in place such a code. I think we heard from Sri Vikashil, and I imagine we'll hear more about it. So I'm glad that something has moved in that direction. Let me go to another story. This is about corporate social responsibility and tobacco companies. And I talk about CSR because the CSR is one of the major ways or modality in which tobacco industry interference happen in India. You know, they enter into agreements with public agencies, get access to decision makers, etc. So this is in 2014 that a dear colleague and a friend, Cyril Alexander, who is representing the Tamil Nadu People's Forum for Tobacco Control, he took up this issue, and after various measures, he had to go to Madras High Court, challenging basically an amendment that had happened to Companies Act, which mandated some of the large companies with larger business turnovers to mandatorily do CSR. And his concern was that, you know, that in such a CSR policy, tobacco companies should be excluded. They should not be asked to do CSR because through CSR they earn goodwill, right? And we have known that a lot in India. In fact, WHO calls so-called CSR by tobacco companies as nothing really but a personal relationship kind of a strategy. And interestingly, he also demanded that, you know, it's not that while you exclude them, you do want them to pay for this money, and let them pay to the central government, and then that money can be used towards, you know, the medical cost of people suffering from cancers, but also to National Tobacco Control Program and things like that. Now, interestingly, the court observed that, you know, and I quote, that we are of the view that the matter being one of the government policy, it is for the concerned authorities to look into all the materials and also the intergovernmental communications to see how best a CSR scheme for the tobacco trade can be met and what model has to be framed here. So there was some sort of an opening to say that, yeah, this is an issue and maybe something needs to be done. And they asked action to happen within 4 months. While CSR by tobacco companies still continue, I think it's still quite a big challenge today. What did happen is that in 2016, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs issued a circular where it clarified that companies, while undertaking CSR, should not contravene any other prevailing laws of the land, including Cigarette and Other Tobacco Control, Tobacco Products Act. So there was some sort of specific sensitization in terms of how, at least when the companies are doing CSR, they should be mindful that they are complying with the Section 5 of the CODPA. Let me come to another story, which is in 2015, where a voluntary organization, Cancer Patients Aid Association, went to Karnataka High Court challenging subsidies and financial and other kind of incentives given to tobacco farming. And as earlier speakers also highlighted about the supply side measures, and the challenge that why government should be subsidizing to such an extent while also having made commitments under various policies including FCTC, where we are talking about phasing out sort of tobacco supply or agriculture in a graded way. Now, in that particular case, the court observed that we feel that a policy decision has to be arrived at by the policy framing authorities, and the policy framing authorities again will have to interact with each other. So I think everywhere we see this reflection of need to have a multi-sectoral dialogue and multi-ministerial dialogue. And one of the things they recorded in the judgment is that the department of the central government and the state government, in coordination with each other, shall take steps for reduction in local demand and supply of tobacco products, and shall also consider a policy for rehabilitation of the tobacco farmers. I think we also have done very little in that regard. But anyway, I think the judgment lies there, but I think Tobacco Board mandate as such continues. Only good thing I think I notice is that the policy of the Tobacco Board now clarifies that they have stopped any further horizontal expansion, meaning they won't really give license or things for cultivating tobacco in new land. But I wonder and I doubt actually that much of the land that could have been cultivated for tobacco has already been under it. From there, let me come to another and probably the last story.
Upendra, we can come back to it because we have other speakers and we have allocated 7 minutes. There will be a
Sure.
buzzer. So I would request all the speakers to please listen to that buzzer, and we can come back to any comments that you have. There is a release of the India Tobacco Industry Index 2020. There have been two other index which were released in 2019 and 2018. However, this is the latest publication, and this was led by Dr. Upendra Bhojani. Here on the screen, you would see the report. And this is systematically measuring the implementation of Article 5.3 in India. And because it has been done consecutively in 3 years, 2018 and 19 were done by Hriday, and 2020 has been led by IPH, but all the three index have been in consultation with various experts nationally who are working in tobacco control, because it does require a consensus recommendation. This particular methodology and how this index is reached, I will request Dr. Upendra Bhojani to tell us a bit about the 2020 index. And after that, we will have Dr. Astha Chugh, who has published her paper, which is the first India index on tobacco industry interference, which was published in the Asia Pacific Journal of Public Health. She'll talk about that publication. So over to you, Upendra, and congratulations on release of this Tobacco Industry Interference Index 2020.
Thank you, Dr. Arora, and I won't take much time. I think thank you for highlighting this report in this panel, releasing it. And as you highlighted, I think this is a very important tool, a very standardized tool, which uses a very systematic inquiry of material available in public domain to highlight various aspects of tobacco industry interference. And basically it gives us a very good comparative status of how we are doing as a country in terms of progressing on implementing the Article 5.3 of FCTC. And as you said, this is the third sort of year in which we have the index being done. And this particular index was done through collaborative inputs from more than 26 tobacco control researchers and practitioners across India. And I'm glad that one of our panelists today, Asa, is going to talk a bit more about this tool per se. I think this is an area we need to do a bit more. Maybe we hope that one day we have more institutionalized approaches of monitoring tobacco industry interference in our country. And I'm glad that Manuja is also going to joining us from South Asia Observatory. So thank you again for highlighting this and the earlier sort of indexes that I can see now on the screen. Thank you, Dr. Monica.